Nice. Okay. What I'm doing is we're kind of going in and out of exercises and looking back at it. So one place I'd like to go is the area of diffusion. All of these are pivotal, but the diffusion one is clearly pivotal because it's part of what projects into the conceptualized self, problem solving with your own feelings, inflexible attention because you're trying to ruminate and worry your way into better function, etc. So it's a pivotal one, they all are, but diffusion is in many different ways. Now part of what we're going to want to do with diffusion is there's sort of principles to it. There's quite a number of them, and I'm not going to do all of them, but I'm just saying it's not willy-nilly. What you're trying to do is you're trying to help people look at their thoughts as they occur. Look at the process of thinking and relating and interpreting and reasoning and problem solving, etc. To notice the repertoire as it unfolds without 100% buying into them and allowing them to structure the stimulus environment you're in. So if you take something like my here, a bad bad is not in the subject, it's in your interaction about it. Yeah? But fusion will easily put it here. And once it's here, it's like you now are going to be burdened by it. You know, life would be good except for this bad I've got. Now, of course, it wouldn't be a bad it would be a bad spouse, a bad job, a bad car, a bad house, a bad salary, something, you know. But you disappear into the badness of the environment that you're now victimized by without noticing that you're badding about it. I'm not saying it's not bad in terms of could be evaluated that way. I just mean taking responsibility for it in the literal original meaning of it, which is that you have an ability to respond, and you're responding right now, and you're badding about it. You can continue badding about it, I'm cool. But don't be telling me it's in this. If all the living creatures on the planet are gone, this is here, unless you're at Philosophy 101, but badness is gone. Okay, so, well, some of the things that we've already done here, this, Mary had a little lamb, I did a little conditioning, kind of a thing around ice cream and cars that were a version of that. Where you just notice how easy it is to program it. I've already done that. I programmed ice cream car for you. And some of you will go to your grave with ice cream car. Pathetic, but true. In fact, not just some of you, almost all of you to some degree, will go to your grave with ice cream car. That's how fast it happens. So part of, you know, like, these are other exercises. I won't say what they are because there's no need, and they're in act work and in books and all the things you'd read, but now you know the spirit of it and the sense of it. I've asked you to not think of something. I forget what it was. It was ice cream, right? I worked on Don't Think of Ice Cream. And next thing you know, we were all diving into gigantic, you know, as you try real hard not to think about it, you start like drooling on yourself. Trash can full of stuff. Do I want to mention that? Nah. Oh, I will. This is this thing of, you know, if I'm working with somebody and they're you know, I'll take an issue, like let's say they've had a major failure. And to make it disgusting, I'll take like a piece of tissue or something and say, this is your failure. Blow my nose into it, excuse me. Put it in the trash can. See it there? Yeah. What does that pull from you? I'm an idiot. Okay, see this here? That's I'm an idiot. And we'll just go through that process. We'll put our reactions into the trash can. Here's the, what else? I hate it, I want to get rid of it. Okay, I'll do the same thing. There's another one. I can't live until it goes away. That's another one. And then you get into this thing, you start You got a trash can full of stuff and you're saying, now what does this tissue have to do with this? What is this one? You're filling up your whole freaking life inside this idea that trying to control and get rid of will help you, when in fact what it's doing is it's building a trash can full of stuff. You know, at the height of my panic disorder, probably 85 to 90% of my waking day was linked to panic. Psychologically. Everything. From the food I ate, to going to sleep at night, to driving a car, to whether or not I opened or closed my door in my office, and on and on and on. Oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. Stop it! There's a TED Talk, you saw one, but there's another one. If you put in Steve's second TED, or just go to that TED and you'll find it. Just put TEDx in my name, you'll find it. But where I go through some of these kind of easy ways to begin to look at thinking. Like one of the things that actually helps, I think, with adolescence or something, pretty easy one, give your mind a name. What does George say about it? Sally, got any comments? Like that. Why would you do something that crazy? Well, because when somebody talks to you, you're used to kind of looking at what they're saying, listening, but not just looking at the world from it. You notice that you're being talked to. That's not true with the Wizard of Oz voice. Go get the broomstick from the witch. Shaking it up here, boss. I mean, you have a thought. Sometimes you're off, you're running, you're going. You don't even notice you have a thought. That boss of yours is not treating you fairly. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, you're in a big emotional reaction about what's happening somewhere or something without even noticing that you're doing anything. It just looks like it's being visited upon you. And of course it's like that. Okay, no. Give it a name. What does Sally say about that boss of yours? Sally says he sucks. Okay, cool. Now, what are you going to do at work tomorrow? And then more flexible. Lots of things you can do. Doesn't mean it's unimportant. Just means it's one of many things. Sources of behavioral regulation. I won't do any. Well, I won't do that one. How old is that? How old is that? You know, we're running our behavior, trying to do something new. You ever tried to do something truly new? It's really, really hard. Everything's connected to everything else, so you tend to do what you've always done, and sometimes they go on a long time. Things that change the literal content, paralinguistic cues, sequence, other words, etc., hold meaning together. A sentence contains a structure in which each word is meaningful in relation to the other words in the sentence, right? A story links the paragraphs, etc. That's the coherence reinforcer that's inside the acquisition of the language. Not functional coherence, literal coherence. Telling the true story, right? Well, you can change the literal context and things start working differently. Okay. That thing you had in your hand, I want you to distill down to a short set of words. Like, I'm bad, or I'm unlovable, or whatever. Something was in there, right? I asked you to pick something that's hard. I bet you there's a little judgmental piece in there, probably of you, or of life, or of something. I'm broken, whatever the thing is. Go there. You got it? I'm going to ask you to do something, and I'm going to do it a couple ways because I want you to know the essence of it. It'll sound like I'm doing something funny. And it might be funny, but it's not funny ha-ha or funny ridicule. It's just the funny creatures we are. Yeah? It's a sweet, sad funny. I want you to take that thought, the one that was in here, that you distilled down, and in your mind, sing it to happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. They know that song? like I'm unlovable. I'm really, really, really unlovable. I'm really, really... You get what I'm doing? Take yours. I'll just be quiet. And I want you to sing it to happy birthday. Not to make it go away, not to change anything, just to see how it lands. Actually do it. No, it's crazy. Trust me on this. You're gonna let your life be run by that? Really? Yes, really. Except maybe now in this moment, a little less likely. Just the teeniest, little bit less likely. I don't mean that it doesn't have anything to do with your life. I mean how you want it to play in your life. It involves your behavior. You just did some behavior. Okay. Songify, I mentioned that because if you're working with adolescents or something, it's a really cool app. There's lots of them out there. You can pick music that you like. You can take a really difficult thing, you know, like Nobody Will Ever Love Me, and turn it into a rap song. You can pick your favorite rapper, you can pick your favorite song. I mean, we've done groups where we do like, you know, depression operas. We have the whole group working on them. Be careful, it's not ridicule. You are not ridiculous. You're human. And pry that little language monster off the face. You know the movie Alien, where it goes down your throat? Language gets in you that way. Can we at least take it from here and put it here? That reminds me of another one, which is I think on the next one. Is it? No, stop it. I'm hitting the wrong thing. I'm just going to do it. Do this, would you? Imagine that whatever you had in your hand is written on your hand. Okay? And then you at your worst put your hand, what it's like to be dominated by that. There are times that probably has dominated you. Is it like out here? Is it like here? Is it like here? Or is it like here? Show me with your hand. Where do you go with what that judgmental, difficult part? For most of you, you notice how much you can see? Not even that. Leave your hand there. If you're not doing it, do it just for play now, even if it doesn't apply to you. Put your hand up just like this, like really close. Tell me everything you know about your hand, based on experience. Well, it's dark, and you can't see anything, and now, do this. Look at your hand. Tell me everything you know about your hand, based on experience. Now, there's one other thing. You notice that you can still do other things with your hand here. You can't do much of anything with your hand here. But here's the deal. Who put your hand here or here? Who did that? What are you, a victim? You're a victim? Really? I get what was written on there you didn't do. My mother said her life was ruined by having me. I guarantee you there's people in the room who are told that as children. Do you doubt it? Not for a second. That's not your responsibility. You didn't have the ability to respond there. That was done to you. But who's doing this, dude? I'm not meaning to shame you. I'm just saying, this is in the realm of things you can do. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to work on what you can do instead of what was just done to you. Yeah? And it makes all the difference. So that's diffusion, kind of. Let's see what else. Oh, buts, I already talked about that, but I didn't really change it to ands. But here's one, just calling the reactions by what they are. Like, I'm having the thought that. I'm having the feeling that. I'm having the memory that. I'm having the urge that. I'm having the sensation that. If you just do that, You've gone from here to here, because you're now describing it instead of being hit by it. If you're in an imaging, this is how it's actually been done, put you in an fMRI, and you just look at what happens when you have a thought like, I'm bad and no one will love me, versus I'm having the thought, I'm bad and no one will love me. Completely different neurobiological response. Completely different. But it was just a thought. I don't mean just a thought like dismissively. I don't mean like, oh, it's just a thought. No, I mean it's just a thought. You thought. No, you did, right? Isn't that what happened? Yeah, I thought that. Okay, well, speak the truth, dude. I'm having the thought. No one will love me. I'll be alone. Or whatever. And it gives you a little space to do other things. You go from domination to one of many. You're not erasing it, you're not making it go away. All right, I'm going to ask you to do something really weird. This is the second really weird thing I've done. And this in some ways is even bolder than looking at somebody. This is up there. On your table somewhere is a sheet of stickers. 10 per sheet, so there should be enough for everybody. Don't do it yet. Let me explain what I want you to do. And I want you to do it in a way that doesn't traumatize you yourself. If you do it wrong, you actually can. So I want you really to listen to me on this. I don't want to hurt you, and you could be harmed by this if you do it wrong. What I want you to do is dig down to a self-judgment that you are ready to let go of. Not that you're hoping you'll someday let go of, or that doing this will make you let go of, but that you have already chosen, just between you and the person in the mirror, I'm letting go of that. What do I mean by that? My life is not being dominated by that. What do I mean by that? This is not my enemy. What do you mean by that? I'm willing to experience it as it is, and do what's there for me to be done. Do what's there for me to do. Yeah? You get what I'm saying? So I'm wanting you to find something, like what was in the hand, that you're sick and freaking tired of, and enough is freaking enough, and I am not going to let my mind, I'm not going to let my behavior be run by that. I'm just not going to. You with me on this? Now, if you have to titrate it down, be careful. Here's how the trauma can happen. You push yourself too hard. I was abused as a child. I have to put abused on my... I'm going to ask you to put it into a word and stick it in your chest. That's where we're going. No, don't put abuse on there unless you are ready. If you're ready for a big leap, God bless you, you know. We'll applaud. I'm with you. But don't be hearing my words being that there's a speedometer on your head and we're keeping score, and if you're not going fast, you're not doing good work. That's bull. Because what we're doing is tantamount to this. You know, like if I were to go like this, I put myself in the hands of gravity for however long that lasted, correct? I did it by my own volitional action, right? Once I'm in the air, it ain't up to me when I land. It's only up to me what puts me in the air. I can choose the context. I can do it from that single step. I can do it from here. And at age 70, you might be careful. I thought you were going up today when the workshop leader... I actually fell off one of these stages right on my head not too long ago. Anyway. But this is a metaphor. But the metaphor is you put yourself in space, right? When you're in space, then it's no longer up to you. Now suppose I say, no, I don't like that. I don't like that. I want to be in control. So here's what I'll do. I'll put myself in space as long as I can retreat at any time. See, look. I'm going to stay. No, I'm not going to change my mind. I'm going to, no, not now. Maybe later. Well, that'll work with one step. It ain't going to work down here. I got a letter, an email from someone who said, after a workshop like this, I was kind of looking at that jumping, and I said, that's kind of cool. I was working on it and doing these things you asked me to do in the workshop. And then when I got home, I got a call from my sister and my dad had died. I wasn't even ill. Gone. He's gone. So I went to the funeral. I got there with my siblings. We cried together. We told jokes about the funny things he used to do. Thank you. I didn't know I had a leap like that ahead of me. So you can practice your leaps by picking the time. Nobody's keeping score. If you put bad hair day on the freaking tag, it's fine. As long as for you, it's a little bit of putting yourself in gravity. What I mean by that is we're going to take a self-judgment and a big black marker, write it down to 1 or 2 words, as big and bold as we can write it, and stick it on our freaking chests, and it stays there until we go to break. And frankly, I'd kind of invite you to leave it on there for the rest of the day. And I'll do it with you. Why would I do something this insane? First time I ever did this. Robin Walser did this at the National Center for PTSD, dealing with soldiers coming back from Afghanistan. We ask our men and women soldiers to do things that are unbelievably hard with not very much preparation beyond boot camp and a Nike commercial. Just do it. Well, other cultures were wiser. You know, there were samurais who did their meditation, and then they were soldiers. And we've actually done those randomized trials, by the way, with soldiers, and we know it helps with them, but the brass doesn't want to do it. They want a Nike solution. You big wuss, get out there. And then they're surprised they come back and beat up their spouse and have an addiction problem. At the National Center for PTSD, Robin came up with this, and these folks would come to their PTSD group wearing these things like Boy Scout ribbons. You know how when you win? And they had things on them like murderer. Because we ask our soldiers to do things like shoot now, ask questions later. And sometimes children are hit. Women are hit. Innocents are hit. Yeah? Have you talked to soldiers who've been in war? Not intentionally, we're not trying to be, but you know, it's what happens. That's what happened. So that's where it came, Robin did. And the first time I did this was at a workshop up in Tahoe. And I wrote down the word, this takes more, yeah, I'll do it anyway. I wrote down the word mean. And I had an image of being a little boy playing with tarantula spiders in El Cajon, putting glue on their rear ends and then lighting it and seeing how fast they run. By the way, I didn't wet my bed and start fires. But did I torture tarantulas? Yes, I did. Am I proud of that? No. I'm a little boy. Come on. Give me a break here, gang. But I remember seeing my mother's face when she came over the hill and saw me and my friend playing with tarantulas' butts with matches and magnifying glasses. And the look on her face said, "You horrible human being. I can't believe you're my kin." I mean, she was... So here's this freaking word, mean. Am I mean? I don't know, but I'm freaking almost... By then, I'm 55 years old. I'm going to be running around stuff I did when I was 4. Enough. You with me on this? Pick a word like that, where enough is enough, and not as a way of doing the work, but as a way of manifesting the work. Write it down, stick it on your chest. Why would I do that? I'm asking you to watch what happens. I predict something very interesting will happen. We went on a break, and I had the word mean on me. And I went to get coffee. It was up in Tahoe. And the camp cook had fixed coffee. Here's how I got coffee. Because I didn't want him to read it. About 3 or 4 minutes later, I'm just walking around. Another few hours after that, I'm driving home. It's still on there. I'm freaking out people in the Denny's. What if these cages we live in are made out of rice paper? What if the printing that looks like iron bars is an illusion of the domination of one repertoire over another? What if we don't have to get the broomstick from the wicked freaking witch of the West? We can just pull the curtain aside. Pay no attention to the man behind the mirror behind the curtain. You humbug. You're a very bad man. Oh no, I'm not a bad man. I'm just a very bad wizard. It's like, oh no, I'm not a bad mind. I'm just a very bad dictator. Well, who put your mind in that role? So, this is a liberation exercise. Enough is freaking enough. You got anything like that? If you do, you got tags in front of you. And I need somebody to give me one because I'm going to ponder what I want to do. Because I'm going to be, if I'm going to do it with you, ask you to do it, I'm going to do it with me too. Could I ask that you leave room for one more word? Leave room for one more word. There's a reason for it.
To write a word about like what they feel about themselves or whatever.
It is. It says, this too shall pass. This is an invitation to do it. I hope you're all willing to do it. And if you're not willing to do it, then you don't need to do it. And you're losing an opportunity. I'd encourage you to do it. And it's okay not to do it. If you are doing it, I want you to notice in the first few seconds as you slap that thing on your freaking chest, the tendency to want to cringe and explain. Can I ask you to do one more thing? The one more thing would be between now and the time we take a break. When we take a break, then we're going to come back for the evening session. At the break, you can explain it. Right now, no explanation. If you notice somebody else got a tag like yours, you can notice it, you can nod, etc. But not like, oh, I'm surprised you have that. Or, I have the same one, but the reason I have it is no reasons, no explanations. This is naked and in the wind. Sue me if you don't like it. This shows up in my head. One massive diffusion exercise. All right, I'll let that go on for a little bit because, we only have a few of those stickers, so... Okay. All right. I'm going to do a little exercise that combines perspective taking and a piece of the values work so that we have a little more grist for the mill. What we're doing is we're kind of dancing around the flexibility processes. We're doing little exercises, and we'll have enough time before 5:15 to unpack this a little bit. You've got a little, you poked Superman in the eye, or you pulled on this cape, this little voice within. You're breaking the rules, just like we were breaking the rules this way. Yeah? And we'll unpack that in a bit. But I kind of lost my train of thought. Yeah, so I kind of like to explore this a little bit. What I want to do is a little eyes closed exercise. So has everybody had a chance to get a tag on, if you're going to get a tag on? Because when we close our eyes a little harder, don't close them yet. This will be a little bit long, in part because the day is short, and I want to mix a couple of things together. So unpack it afterwards, but here's what I'm going to need from you to do. I'm going to need something painful that projects into the present moment and that has a history. It's been around a while. So it could have been what this is, But we've done some other things, like it could be what this is. You may remember some of the places where this got started. Yeah, I remember a few. Do you remember where that got started? You might do that. So pick something that you want to work on that projects into the present time, that's repertoire narrowing, that has some difficulty, it has a history, and we can go exploring with it and just see what shows up. So I'm not going to give you any more help than that, except to say it's a little mix of perspective taking and values work. And if you're willing to do it, we'll do it as an eyes-closed exercise. So I suggest you have your last slurp of whatever you're drinking and put your stuff where it'll be comfortable. You don't have to worry about where it is. Get your arms and hands where they can sit for a little while.
Focus.
And if you find that your mind sort of objects to some of what I'm saying, or criticizes, or analyzes, or interprets, just notice that voice, just like we notice that we're wearing these tags, or noticing the song we just sang to the tune of Happy Birthday. And instead, come back to my voice and what I'm asking you to do. And let's do it as a kind of a behavioral experiment. Nothing's going to be hurt. We're just exploring behavior. We're all behaviorists in here. We can interpret it afterwards. Behaving first, interpretation second. And what I'd like you to do is to allow your eyes to close if you're comfortable with it. If you're completely uncomfortable closing your eyes, and some people are, you can cover them with your hand, or you can even just look at a spot on the floor. If it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other, or if you can get there, close your eyes. And I want you to start out in the world of sensation, of just noticing what it feels like to sit in this chair that you're sitting in. See if you can actually notice where you touch the chair. It's not your whole body that's touching it. It's not even your whole butt or legs or back. It's only certain parts of that. And take a little moment to notice that you're sitting in a chair and that you're touching the chair, but only in certain places. It almost makes a pattern on you, like a shape. Notice that. And then see if you can become aware of the temperature of the air on your skin. And if you focus really carefully, you might notice that there's some movement of air in this room, and you might even be able to sense the movement of the air on your skin. Not just temperature, but actual air movement. See if you can detect that. With your eyes closed, you still are having visual stimulation. Some light is making it through those lids of yours, but in addition to that, there's background stimulation in the retina. And it's almost as if you got a little light show on the underside of your eyelid. You don't usually notice it, but I want you to notice it now. Just watch the light show. There's shapes and lines, and for some people even colors. Certainly light and dark. Notice also that it changes. And then as you notice those things, I want you to notice that you're noticing those things. You're here now sitting in this chair. You're here now feeling the air. You're here now watching the underside of your eyelids. There's a person here. Not just butts and eyelids and skin here. There's a person here who in some sense of the term is connecting with and aware of, can report about and speak about their own experience. And when I speak and I'm asking you to direct your attention towards one thing or another, you notice it. And for right now, I just want you to notice who's noticing. Who's noticing pulls for an answer, like a name or an interpretation. I'm not asking for that. I'm just asking you to catch awareness. Catch the experience of awareness the way you caught the visual stimulation on the underside of your lid, or the temperature on your skin, or the impact of the chair on your rear end. And then from that perspective or point of view, from the part of you that observes and watches, don't turn this into a little homunculus. Just notice that there's a repertoire there of noticing. Notice who's noticing, whatever that means. Notice the fromness of awareness. That here and now, I'm aware. And then from that perspective or point of view, I want you to go and touch that thing you decided to work on that's painful and difficult. Metaphorically, it's almost like reaching inside yourself and putting a lump of squirmy wormies here on your lap, a kind of a nondescript collection of history and emotions and sensations and desires and urges and behavior. And I'm not asking you to interpret it. I'm just asking you to get with it and notice that there's this difficult issue you wanted to look at. But now, standing in front of yourself, looking back at yourself, knowing what you're facing just moments ago sitting there, I have a few questions for you. What do you feel about this person you're looking at? Is this a whole human being? A valid human being? Does this person belong here? Do they belong in the group? Is that person broken? How do you feel about this person? You like this person? Is it too weird to ask, do you love this person? Called you? And don't even answer that. Just sit inside the question. Even with this difficult thing in my lap, what do I feel about? Or how do I view myself as a whole human being with that? And as a metaphor for that, imagining looking at yourself with all of the clothes and hairdo and lines in your face that you have right now. And then in your mind's eye, I want you to walk to one side of the room or the other. Pick the side, wherever you want to go, but pick a place where these pillars won't get in the way, because I'm going to ask you when you get there to spin around and to look at yourself now from a distance. You're still sitting there. You can see yourself. Your posture is exactly what it was before. You're still wearing those clothes. And you know, but nobody else would, just looking at you, that sitting on your lap is a whole bunch of stuff that's hard. It's difficult. But now from this perspective, you can see you're at a table. There's several other people there. And although you don't know what's on their lap, you know they're participating in this workshop, and they got something on their lap. They've got something on their chest, too, on these little tags. They may feel guilty about or ashamed of. You're part of a group called human beings. And every freaking person in here has got something on their chest and something in their lap, just like you. And a lot of that stuff has been held as secrets, as dirty little secrets, as things you dare not share. And the big joke is everybody's got the same secrets. And so my question to you is, what do you feel about this human being called you, now looking way from over here on the other side of the room? Is this a whole human being, a worthwhile human being, a lovable human being? Is this somebody who belongs here? Should they be tarred and feathered and thrown out Should they be turned into the thought police? Or is this a person who belongs here? And that you're willing to let be here as a member of the human community. Notice there's other people at that table of yours. And if you cast your imaginary eye around, there's 260 odd folks in this room, all with stuff in their lap. And then as you ask that question and you look at yourself from afar, you realize this is actually not happening right now. This is a memory. Life has evolved powerfully, and it's 10 years from where this originally happened, and you're in a much more powerful, open, connected, empowered place. You're in a wiser place in your life. You've done some hard work, and you've moved forward. And you remember, you were in this workshop, and this old bald guy was doing this weird stuff and asking you to look at yourself on the other side of the room, and you can still picture what you imagined. But it's 10 years from now, and you're much, much wiser. And you got an opportunity, you just have one chance, where you can pass a message back across the ages of how that person called you can be with themselves in a way that's empowering, even with the stuff that's in that lap of theirs. If you knew what you then now know because of your wise development, what would you say to yourself that would help yourself be with yourself even with that issue? In other words, from this wiser future, what message would you want to give to your younger self about how to deal with that issue? You remember that issue? That one that was in your lap 10 years ago? If I could just pass back a sentence, it would be this. Dear me, a message from the future. I suggest this. And then we'll take that message, whatever it is, and write it down. And having writ, it's now able to be passed across the 10 years because in your memory, as we come back into the present, you're on the other side of the room, you walk towards yourself, but you're carrying a message from the wiser future. You just put it in your memory, put it in your back pocket, and you're walking over to yourself and noticing all these people, all this suffering and loving and wonderful and disturbing community called humanity. Get in front of yourself. And then I have one more thing to ask of you. If you take what you wrote down on your note from the future, who in your life would be a guide for you? Somebody that you know you've connected with, somebody that you've read about maybe. Maybe they're not alive and in your connection. Maybe they're only things you know well through writings or film or something. But is there anybody who would be a darn good advisor as to how to be with yourself in that wiser way that you just wrote down? I'm asking you to pick a hero. Could be a sibling or a friend or a coach or a therapist or a teacher or a spouse or a spiritual leader, a lover, anyone. And see if you can get to one. The guide I would pick to sort of carry this message into my life would be this person. And if you can't think of anyone, and sometimes you can't think of somebody in literature or in scripture or in any of the things that you've seen in film or whatever who would represent something positive for you in terms of how to be with yourself in that way. And then, as you're looking at that person sitting there, I want you now to spin around and sort of be in your chair here with this issue, and you're looking up, and here's that person you picked looking down at you. They're right in front of you, just like you were in front of yourself just a few minutes ago. And it's this guide that you picked to carry a message to you. And take just a little moment to look at their face. They're standing in front of you. Look at that face and those wrinkles and that expression. And what do you see in those eyes? What do you see in that face? And just for a moment, go behind the eyes of the person you picked and look back at you now. What does a person you pick, what does he or she feel about this person called you, knowing full well what's in this lap of yours, what the issue is, and aware of the message that you wanted to deliver from the future? How do you look? Do you look like a whole human being? A worthwhile human being? Do you belong here? And we'll bring your conscience back in your body. You're looking up at this guide of yours. You remember what you brought from the future. This guide of yours is in you. You imagined somebody. And even if they literally still believe or exist on the planet, they're also in you. They're a model of something. You picked a hero. I asked you to. So as a reflection of that, let's bring that face closer and closer, and then it'll go back to exactly where it started, which is in you, so that when we come out of this exercise, this little 14-minute exercise, if you're keeping time, and I am, when we come back, people will see the surface skin of your face. But behind that skin is another skin. It's the skin of the person that you picked. And could, as we put that person back where they started, which was inside you, as a model, as a hero, as a guide, could we put it back to you in such a way that part of what we want to do here is manifest in the next 3 days and the rest of today, in our work here and what we do at lunch, at dinner and lunch, and what we do when we're back at the hotel room or a house or whatever it is, that can manifest itself somehow, almost like radiating out, as if the energy underneath your skin could radiate out into your world. And what's being radiated out is a message. It's the one you wrote to yourself. So picture this room and all the people that are in it, and remember that they've all got their stuff. Before you come back, take that stuff off your lap, put it back in your body, put it back where it started. If you don't like that, tough toasties, this is part of your history. It comes with you. But remember also how you are viewed in the eyes of that guide you picked, and what that message was. And when you're ready to come back to that group of human beings, each with their guides right underneath their skin, just for fun, you might see if you can remember who's to the left and right of you, and what they're wearing, what they look like. And when you picture them thoroughly, just come back to your group. It's a little long, it's taxing your attention. I'm sure some of you wandered away and came back. With some clients, as they had lessons and things like that, I would make it much shorter. So I'm not just doing therapy stuff exactly, I'm trying to touch spaces that we can unpack with principles that then when you learn the techniques make sense. Because this is built on the psychology of the normal, and we're people too. I'd be interested in what you wrote to yourself from the future about how to be with yourself with something that's hard. Not everybody was able to formulate that, but most of you were. If it's short, you can even shout it out, but otherwise I need mic runners. You got one? Keep going, you'll get there. You're going to be okay. Keep working hard. Be brave. Ask for what you need. Enjoy the time that you have with her. If you're afraid of doing something, it's the time to do it. You need to do it. Give me a break. Give yourself a break. I'm sure you're not asking for a break. It's too early. We just had a break. But yeah, awesome. Thank you. Continue with love to do great things. I'll take just one or two more. Would you say? First part? You will reach the goal. You'll be safe. You're a lovable person, an interesting and lovable person. Now, if we go back a little bit, and if you can remember what it is that you said, I could sort, and you probably could too, almost every comment into that system. Did you hear it? There were values, love. There was persistence, go for it. You're acceptable and whole and lovable, you belong. There's a lot of, don't let this dictate to you. But it was kind of a little more subtle. But so you said so you can do hard things, or there are a few of them that are over here, of being with things that are difficult. You with me on this? Can you pretty much sort them? Best you can remember? I've done this with people who are like in inpatient drug and alcohol treatments, which in Nevada, we don't give that to just anybody. You have to trash your life first. Because we don't spend money on anything. If you got a mental health problem, we ship you to California. That's not a joke. We actually do it. We had to pay like multiple $1 million because we were giving chronically mental people bus tickets to Sacramento. That was our mental health program. Pathetic. But save money, I guess. Yeah. I've done this with people at that level of disturbance in their life, and you know what they sound like? They sound like what you just said. We know. It's just, we don't know. We know. It's just we don't know. And so this is not magic, this is not crazy, it's counterintuitive, it's a little odd, but it's not crazy, this is not insane. This is showing up to your experience as a whole human being, able to allocate your attention to what matters and pursuing what you deeply care about and building your life around that. You can do that. And now if I say it as a formula that way, it sounds like you should just accept it and so forth. Oh, please. When it's you, it's hard. No, it's not like that. Give people the skills that they need through acceptance and commitment training. It's not just psychotherapy. That helps them step into their own history and to be able to consciously put meaning and purpose in their life in a different way. So your wise messages from the future didn't come from an ACT workshop. They came from you, and if you did it with people in inpatient drug and alcohol treatment, that's the kind of stuff they would say. It's just that this Wizard of Oz voice doesn't know how to do that. It's a problem-solving tool. Problem-solving means I don't want that, I do want this, and next thing you know, you're sorting your experiences. Could you just take, now we have a deal, right? We're not explaining, we're not justifying. Could we do something here? I would like you, kind of one at a time, to look at the people at your table and what they have on their chest. In silence, I'd like you to do that. Just one at a time. Let your eyes go from one to the other. But then notice that you're being noticed too. You have a big old tag there. You got it written down. They can probably even read it from 8 feet away. That's not going to protect you. And what I want you to do is to show up to something here. This is the kind of monkey we are. That we're carrying around stuff like this. And just take a little time. When you notice it, read the tag, and just for a second, connect with the eyes of that whole human being who's been carrying that. Just one at a time. How many of those things could you have put on your chest? Some of those things they wrote down, you could have written down. True? Look at it. And when you look at those eyes, notice, this has been hard. They're doing something courageous. They're doing something bold. Here, read it. Something very human. Enough is enough. No more of that. Here. And they're reading yours. They're reading yours. Oh, 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 they're reading yours. But also, when they look at those eyes, they see your humanity. They see, I could have written that. All right, that exercise, because when you understand how it works, you can make up your own. You don't have to do ACT exercises. You know, evidence-based therapy has come to mean technology for problems. What if it was principles for problems? Who knows how to do that? The behavior analyst. What do we call it? Functional analysis. So don't be thinking you have to get the rule book. Dig down to the principles, be guided by the principles, use your own creativity, and then look to see what moves people. Be shaped by the data, including the data that people are right in front of you. Yeah? So let's do a little functional analysis here about what we just did. With your eyes closed, I started out in the world of sensation. Why would I do that? It's the only thing that's always in the now. Oh, it's only, look around the room and try really hard to see something that you don't see now. I defy you to do it. Anybody able to do this? No. Look, you see what you see now. With me on that? Okay. Now, describe the now, where the description and the experience is the same exact thing. You can't do it. Now. No, that's the now that was a few milliseconds ago. Not this now. That was that now. That now's in the past. You with me on this? As soon as language, look, it's called reference for a reason. And by the way, the past participle form of reference is the same root as relation. And we don't have to buy into the kind of referential, kind of mechanistic metaphor that's inside normal meaning of language. We can have it this other way. Fere, in Latin, ferry, from the same thing as a ferry boat. It means to carry. Re means do it again. Relational operants allow arbitrary events to carry again the functions of other events. Ah! Ah! What does now look like? With me on this? That takes a little time. It isn't like that. I mean, if I say now, I'm now in the literal meaning now. That's not the same as now. The now that is the same as now is the one that happened when you looked around the room and tried to see something you don't see now and you can't do it. So I started with sensation because it's the only thing that's in the now. Why do I want to do that? Because I want to foster, I want to ground what we're doing in the context of your life in a way that's flexible, fluid, and voluntary. Now I'm guiding your attention, so I'm not giving you the chance to do it on your own. But we'll give you exercises and things to do. You can learn how to practice it on your own. You can narrow and broaden attention. You can bring it into your body. You can move out. I started there. So I started with your butt. I started with the air in the room. I started with your eyelids for a reason. And then what did I do? I asked you to notice who was noticing. Why would I do that? Because the I, here, nowness of experience is a place from which you can walk into the hell of your own history and care with an open embrace of that vulnerability of caring. This pivot over, is fostered by coming into the moment, but also coming into consciousness. Consciousness, I mean the word, with knowing, with the perspective taking that allows you to contact verbally your events, relationally your events. So I asked you to notice who's noticing, because that's the pivot point from which we can get unstuck. Then I create a metaphor for this thing that's hard. Squirmy, wormy, got a lot of stuff, ding, 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 in your lap. Why did I do that? That's diffusion. When you're looking at your reactions, at your emotions, at your urges, you're not just looking at the world structured by them. With me on this? Instead of doing this, you're doing that. Or squirmy wormies in your lap. Okay? Then in there's that diffusion experience, but there's also some acceptance spirit. Asking you to kind of open up to notice, etc. I come back to here. Now, what did I do? I asked you to imagine that you're a person you're looking at and a person you're looking from. Right? Stand in front of yourself, look back at yourself. What do you feel about that person? Blah, blah, blah. But what do you feel about that person? A lot of this stuff is code for, is this person okay? Am I willing to be with them? Do they belong here? There were these establishing operations. Being part of a group, feeling the kind of values piece of you're valuable, I care about you. I even used the word love about yourself. Right? That's an appeal over here. Then I went to the side of the room. And you look back. Why would I do that? I here now is I, you, here, there, now, then. It's time, place, and person. That's what comes together in that 3 to 6 year old place where you show up as a conscious human being. That's how we try to train it in kids on the spectrum that don't know how to do it. Yeah? By flexibility of I, you, here, there, now, then. Deictic framing, right? So in my exercise, I first did 2 people, and then I did space. I'll leave you here, but then take you over there to look back at yourself here. But then also noticing you're part of a group. Oh, that's that yearning to connect. No, excuse me, that yearning to connect. It's built into consciousness itself. Then I did time. It's actually the future. You're much wiser. Looking back at yourself. What do you feel about that person? If you could only whisper one little thing, one little sentence, what would it be? And then in memory, you could bring it back. That's a values piece and a committed action piece, but it's kind of asking yourself for advice. Right? Brought you back, we came back from the time to the present, from over there to here, from here. We then did one last thing. I asked you to think of a hero who knew something about what was in that pocket, just that values-based or flexibility-based, but we already explored. Right? Why would I ask you to pick an advisor? You've internalized wisdom from others. At the best of it, your movies, your stories, your songs, your novels, your dreams are connecting you with something about what you want to be about. And the metaphor of a guide. Now my guess is when you went behind their eyes and looked back at you, very few of your guides went like, oh, get me out of here. Oh, I mean, come on. No. Didn't happen, I bet you. Hardly any. And then I asked you to internalize it. Why? Because I'm taking the metaphor of another person who's your hero. To internalize it means to bring in their qualities of being and doing that they want to orient you towards. Another way to say that, to bring into your heart the values that you already have. Chosen qualities of being and doing. I got a little fast on some of these flexibility processes and values. I didn't really do a deep dive into. But can you see how that was kind of a values metaphor? You picked a guide for something. Well, I'll say it this way. Is there something in the guide that you picked that you value? Do they stand for something that you look at and say, that's pretty cool? There's something cool about that person. They stand for something. You might even know what they stand for in your life, right? Those are your values. It's a little window into your values. I don't want to be oppressive by saying it that way. I'm not saying they have to be. I'm just saying consider the possibility that it's not random, that the people who lift you up are people who somehow connect with what you want to be about in your life. How could we do that? Well, we just did an exercise. So this was not chaos. I mean, I was doing a little weird eyes closed exercise that included flexibility model perspectives. In fact, everything in the model was in that exercise, even that last little part of the committed action. You know, we read what was on the wise future. These are suggestions, I think, aren't they? For how to build out your life in a way that would be effective and true to yourself and blah, blah, blah. Too many words. I'm talking too much, as usual. Put an academic in front of a whole bunch of people. Guess what you get? Does this make sense? Does this make sense to you? What do you think? Is that behavioral? I think it is. It's based on principles that are well established. And you can model to a degree. In the basic RFT labs, you can certainly test it in the ACT labs. We see it in our clients. Where I'm going is I want you to see it in your own heart and head. Not as a substitute for data, but as a recognition of the importance of the data. If those data are that important, they belong to me. They're in me, and they're worth my attention. Do you know what I'm saying? So you notice that you should just accept it without knowing what that journey is about. That's not respectful of other people and of the importance of it. I'd be curious as to what's happening with these tags. Let me ask you this. If I had, when you walked into the door today, magically known that this was what we should write and stuck it on you, how hard would have that been? You just stuck it on yourself. What are you noticing about the energy behind the words? Anybody want to share? What are you noticing? Is there any change in function? As you look around and you see these human beings? Anybody willing to share? Have we got a...
I get to choose it or not.
You get to choose the role that it has or how it functions, right? You don't get to choose the history. You'll go to your grave with that. I'll remember my mama's look when I was burning the poor tarantulas. In El Cajon, California, that was what we called kid entertainment. Chasing tarantulas and tarantula hawks. Incredible little things, right? Have you ever seen a tarantula? Little buggy thing. You know, but I'm done with mean. I'm just done with it. I've got a collection of these things at home. There's like 40 of them. And I can almost not remember anymore why that was so hard on some of them. Not all of them. Some of them I want to do it again. I've got one on here. I said not talk about, but I got one that has been on my chest before. Other things you've noticed? What are you noticing?
I noticed that if you were to say it to me, it would be oppressive. It would be kind of like almost like a weight put on me.
Yes.
Whereas when I put on myself, it was like bringing something out off of me.
Like a weight taken off of you. Have you noticed that you're feeling a little bit lighter, metaphorically? Whatever that heaviness is, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter. Give me a nod if that makes any sense to you. It's metaphorical. Awesome. That's a diffusion effect. That's a diffusion read. And, you know, I'm not going to be able to do it, I was delusional to think that I could. But in the handouts, I've got what I call reads. Of course, this is Reno for stimulus cues, because that's what they call it in gambling. You know, the gamblers wear sunglasses on purpose because you don't want to be able to be read. And good gamblers can read things like the dilation of the pupils and stuff like that. He was a behavior analyst. You know Pat Fryman? Anybody know Pat Fryman? He was a professional gambler for years. Don't play poker with him unless you're wearing sunglasses, because you're going down. Because he can read you like what? Well, anyway, back in there. What page is it? 20 something or other. There's a set of behavioral reactions or indications that in my experience, there it is. What page is that? It's right before the pivots. And it says at the top something like what? Reads, just says reads, and the very first page says something like reading functional processes and behavior. There's a few self-reporty things in there, a few, but most of these things are just things you can see directly that are indications that each of these 6 inflexibility processes, or a few of them are flip sides, you can tell which is which, are present. It's not, you know, some of these things are actually empirically validated, many of them are more like clinical experience, but it's, as a community we can work this thing out. If you're thinking, oh, like fusion, that's only self-report. No, no. You watch people talk about the things that are painful. If they talk about them with a sense of distance, like I'm having a feeling that, people do say words like that. And when they do, it predicts long-term developmental processes that are different than if you just say, I'm judgment or emotion. In the randomized trial that we did with ACT for tinnitus, you know, ringing in your ears, which I did because I'm an old punk rocker, and believe me, when you're 70, you will pay. Kids, with your little iPhone-y things, you will pay. What you're headed towards in your life, I can tell you what it is. It's this. Except it's 24 freaking 7. Never stops. Except it gets worse. Louder. Actually, in that whole thing, that kind of tinnitus, I had this thought after about 3 years of struggling with this. I should just shoot myself and the sound will go away. And then this voice came that was actually rather helpful. Hey, dude, that's a suicidal thought. Perhaps you should apply your life's work to this. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. 48 hours later, I was in a completely different space. A week later, the distress had gone from 90% to 0, where it stayed for several years. Do my ears ring? Yes. When was the last time I heard it? A week ago when I was telling this story. Why? Because I don't care and you can't make me. The freaking ears are doing what they're doing. It's boring. There isn't anything more boring than... What, I'm going to get attention to that? Like, oh, how awful, my ears are ringing. Oh, please. I don't care. Boom. Sometimes acceptance looks like, I don't care. I'm just, certain things are like that. Chronic pain. Emotional memories when you've extracted all the information out of them. Ringing of the ears. Message to the future. Next lifetime, don't stand in front of 30-foot tall speakers that are going out at 165 decibels. Do you think? Yes, Black Flag and X and all the rest were very cool coming through Greensboro on their way to DC back in the era, but it wasn't wise to get up to next to tatted, bare-chested men screaming like aircraft engines. Anyway, so I learned my lesson, but it doesn't make any difference because the ears will ring forever. Why was I telling that story? I forget why I was telling that story. There was a purpose to it. There was a purpose to it. What was the flow? Dang, I've lost the flow. An example of experiential avoidance. Well, it definitely was that. Where I think I was going was, oh yes, I think is this issue of how can we carry all this stuff with kind of equanimity and openness and take what's useful and leave the rest. Can we actually kind of make those turns? No, it wasn't quite that. It was something else. But anyway, story told. Where am I? I got half an hour. Have we shared all we have to share about this? Who's going to wear this during the break? Anybody crazy enough in here? You don't have to, but I recommend it. I recommend it. You feel the energy inside it draining away. What if we don't have to be run by the voice within? What would run us instead? Well, how about what it is that we came here to do? I forget where I was going. I wish I could dial it up because I lost my train of thought about the Tinder's story. But I remember. I was showing you the behavioral indications, right, of these processes. And I said, these are not just self-report. These are behaviors, right? Here's where I was going with that long detour. When we did randomized trials of ACT for tinnitus, which we then did, when we created measures of acceptance and diffusion with regard to tinnitus that predicted outcomes better than anything that had been done before in that area, when we did that, we were able to see in the transcripts of people talking about their loud ringing ears at session 2 and 3 what was going to happen at a 6-month follow-up. They started saying things like, I'm having the thought that, or I'm noticing that the ringing that, they had little perspective taking and distancing words in there. Not because they were told you have to do that. This was session 2 and 3 in the early part of the protocol, where we're just beginning to go through what we've gone through today. What we're exploring today, maybe not artfully done, but is the things we've put into a protocol. And people started naturally just saying things like, well, I'm having a judgment, like, I hate this, and that change in how they think about, you might say, how they talk about, you could say, overtly what you see being said predicted how they were going to do. So it's kind of cool. We can show it in implicit measures of cognition, the kind of stuff Ramona's going to talk about, in where the IRAP and some of these things we built with RFT. If you don't know how that works, it's okay. We're not going to try to. But so we can see it on these kind of cues, you know, things like, for example, changing of topics. Okay, so you're raising an issue with a parent, let's say, about their children, a child with developmental disability. And you find that when you touch things that are emotionally vulnerable, the topic changes conversation. The conversation changes topic. Well, how do you feel when you first heard that? Next thing you know, you're talking about the schedule next week. And you didn't go there on purpose. You were just moved. That's a behavior. The person you're working with is saying to you, maybe not even knowing to say it out loud to you, I can't go there. That's too painful. What do you hope for your child? Something else happens. So these behavioral processes, I remember now I was telling that story, it's on this riff of when I said, was that behavioral? The answer is yes, this is behavioral. It's behavioral in the sense that we can see it in behavior. It's behavioral in the sense that it's about function. It's behavioral in the sense that's in your handouts, that the only thing that we're appealing to here are known processes, relational operants, rule governance, contingencies, evolutionary contingencies. That's it. No spooky, no ghosts, nothing fairy dust, no auras from the sixth universe. And to me, that's back to Beowulf and Risley. But you have to make that decision, and you'll make that decision over the 4 days that you have here. This lying clock says I've only got 25 minutes or so. I want to do something as an exercise that pulls all these processes together. Fair warning, this can change lives. Don't volunteer easily. Do volunteer after you hear what I'm going to ask you for, but not easily, because here I say it this way. If you're not ready for something different, don't volunteer. I don't mean up here it would be that different. But we're going to try to do something that's a pivot. You know, the pivot, I'm going in that direction, now I'm going in that direction. There's an energy, there's establishing operation, but that's now going in that direction. What I would like you to do is to think of something in the world of behavior, overt behavior, something that we could all see if we were following you 24/7, that you really wanted to do, that is there for you to do, that you know is being true to yourself to do that. And you got a lot of internal barriers that keep you from doing it. Quote unquote. So is the story. There's a lot of yeah buts. Yeah, but that's scary. Yeah, but I'm not sure. Yeah, but I'm not sure that I'm able. Yeah, but what if I fail? Etc., 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 etc. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. All the freaking things you got on your chest enough. Okay? And here's what we're going to do for the group if you do this. I want to walk through the values that are inside the behavioral goal that you have. I'm going to ask you to share a little about the thoughts, feelings, memories, and bodily sensations that deflect you from that path. And I'm going to act out how it is to try to bargain with your mind and do what it says, or what it would be like to do something more like that in front of 260 people. About you. Out loud. So don't say yes easily. Dennis Church. Anybody in here know Dennis Church? Dennis was in a workshop years ago, and he's given me permission to say this, where I did this exact thing. His hand went up. I said, what do you want to work on? He says, I'm in private practice, and I want to write books. I got things to say based on my experience with my clients that I think would be helpful to people. And I really want to put my voice out there. But I'm afraid. I'm not sure I'm good enough. Not sure people will actually want that. Blah, 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 blah. And the people who raise your hand because you know Dennis Church, most of you probably don't know him by visiting him in his New York office, which I have done. You probably read one of his books. And I think it's getting up to like 10 or something. And it started there in that workshop. So don't volunteer easily. You're playing with fire. The fire being just the burning through of that values vision through the resistance and into your life. Hey, that sounds like a book I could write. Burn through your resistance and do. No, get out of your mind. Your life is better. So do I have any volunteers having scared you? Got one? Could you just tell me, because I know from experience some work and some don't. What is the behavioral goal you're working on? You want to work on? Okay, and the letting go, would it be shown up, if we were following you 24/7, could we actually see it in your behavior? Or is it more like when I let go of it, then I'll have is it mostly internal? I want something that's external, but it can be neither internal barriers. Is it something we could see if we were following you? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so can I repeat what you're saying? Because I might not take it because I need one more answer. A relationship issue where I actually deal with this person that I used to have a relationship with, and I find some of these things are kind of hard to put into practice with myself. But then here's the thing that I wanted to know. If we were following you 24/7, what would we see in the world of behavior? Because letting go can mean something more like coming to terms with, showing up, being present with, and that's cool. This will help with that. But for this exercise, I want one where there's a concrete behavioral goal that we could see. Not quite there yet. Is it there? Just talking about it. I'm going to let it go because of the behavioral thing, but we'll come back. And we're going to do 4 days, and people are watching. See if we can be of some help. You got one? What you got? Yeah. You want to do research? Like what kind of stuff? Research on trauma, okay. And do you have things that show up that function as a barrier to you? Your own trauma history. Okay, awesome. And are there concrete things that are there for you that could be taken that would move you in the direction of actually doing research on this? I don't mean that tomorrow you've got the IRB submitted, but I mean there's a path where what research is about you could do and be part of that would somehow touch the heart of this problem. Come on. I need a mic. Thank you for your courage and your willingness to step forward. You're flipped around so I can't see your tag, so you're going to have to tell me. Hi, Tim. You go by Tim? Okay. So remember to hold, the thumb rule is if you can touch your face with a thumb, then it's close enough. So why don't you just say what you said to me so everybody can hear why you raised your hand.
I want to do research on trauma and attachment, and a big barrier of me doing that research is my own trauma and attachment issues.
Your own trauma history and attachments. Okay. So let's put a little bit of form to it, but let me just give you a metaphor for kind of how we're going to do this. Imagine that you are driving a vehicle that has room for lots of passengers, and your thoughts, feelings, memories, and bodily sensations are passengers that show up in this vehicle. Vehicles can go in directions, they can head places, and what we're going to do is bring some folks up here who can be the passengers, and we're going to look at how things have been going, and then look at what the alternative is and see if we can actually give expression to this whole model in front of 260 people in a way that might actually be useful to you. And I have to say, if doing this exercise comes down to me doing it in a way that's useful to you or doing it in a way that makes sense of what I just did, I'm choosing him over you because he took the risk. But I'm going to try to do both, okay? So even as you think about doing research in your trauma, you could have trauma history. What kind of stuff shows up that says no? That says don't? That says maybe later, or you're not ready, or you're not good enough, or you're not big enough. I don't know what it is, but what kind of things show up as you even think about it? Probably showed up back there when you just about raised your hand.
Worthless.
Worthless. Can you put in words how that shows up? Like if we could somehow listen to the Wizard of Oz voice that goes on in your head, we've all got it. What kind of things, at its worst, would it be saying to you that would tend to stop you in your tracks?
Well, actually, usually it's if you're not brilliant and amazing and doing something cool, worthless.
Okay. You got to be brilliant and super cool in order to work on this problem.
Right.
And you're worthless. You're not brilliant and super cool.
Unless I'm doing something.
Oh. Okay. Okay. So you're a student, or what are you doing? Where are you? Are you a professor? Or?
No, just
Okay.
regular old BCDA.
Okay. Awesome. Let's take this voice of "I'm not good enough." Is that okay way to say it? Or "I'm not brilliant enough"? I'm not. What? Give me more of a shape to it.
Just worthless.
Worthless. I'm worthless because I know that I'm worthless because
I guess no one took care of me when I was little.
Okay. You got a backstory, you got a history, some of it might even link to the trauma in some way, yeah? I've been proven to be worthless. Even to the point of being abused. Yeah? Does anybody know about the voice of worthlessness? Is there anybody would you be willing to be that voice for, whoever raised your hand, would you be willing to be that voice for Tim? Come on up, come on down. All right, so I might need a couple more mics. Thank you, awesome. So you're going to be probably asked to carry the mic, because we'll get a couple people up here. But before we do that, let's find what else. So worthless shows up, and you're going to be worthless, Hannah. Thank you. And actually, when we get to it, you'll express out loud what you think might be going on with them. And he can give you a little bit of help as to really be the mean, nasty voice within that stops you. Well, what else shows up? I'm thinking of doing research on people with trauma, and what shows up is...
well, what I wrote was no one's going to rescue you, or no one's going to rescue me.
No one's going to rescue me.
So if I get myself into some issue, no one's going to...
Okay, if you make a mistake or something, you're just going to be abandoned. You're going to be alone. You're going to be left behind.
Abandoned.
Yeah, you're going to be abandoned. They're not going to rescue you. You're the one who stepped out, fool that you are. Something like that? Does anybody know that voice? I saw you first. Would you be willing to be that voice? Thank you. Come on up. The abandonment voice. You would get a sense of how much of a courageous thing Tim is doing. We should thank him for what he's doing for us. But these two, do they represent a reasonable portion of the voices that stop you? Okay, so come on over here. I want you to imagine that you're just thinking about, you're going to be doing research. You're going to be doing research on abuse and trauma. Is that a fair way to say it? Abuse and trauma, or just trauma?
Yeah, abuse, trauma, and attachment.
Abuse, trauma, and attachment. Lack of attachment, people who don't have the kind of history in which they can attach. Okay, so including some sort of almost emotional abandonment like this, right? Difficult. If you even think about it, even think about doing that, a voice shows up within. Hannah, would you come around? Come around here. What I want you to do is just stand in front of him and be his voice. I'm thinking about doing that, but then here comes this voice.
You're not good enough.
Keep going.
Broken. You suck. Gonna fail anyway.
Is there anything like that? You want to give her some coaching, or is that close?
That's about right.
It's good. What do you want to do with her when you hear that? In your normal way of being, like what does this pull from you, this voice?
Fuck you, I'm going to do it anyway.
Okay. Would it be fair to say, well, don't fall apart yet. Let's see. Let's see. Let's unpack it. Is it the case that you're thinking that you can argue with her?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do that. Argue with her. You can say the F word.
Yeah, fuck you.
We're all grown-ups here.
I don't know, if I do cool stuff and people notice me, then I won't be worthless.
They'll find out you really are.
Yeah. Good work, Anna.
Yeah, you're probably right, I guess.
Slow him down. This mic can't fly yet. It looks like it's healthy, but no, this is part of the dance, yeah? You've had this argument. It's just all been in here. Now it's out here, yeah? What do you want to do with her, given that you argue? She comes right back and says things like that.
Just prove her wrong.
Prove her wrong. Where do you want her to go?
I want her to stay right here and watch me do it.
Oh, okay.
I'll watch you fail.
Now, when you are stopped by her, and you've been stopped by her in the past, right? What is that in the service of? Okay, I'll just let go of that research thought for a bit. What do you hope will happen when you let go of that research stuff for a bit? Because you've been dancing around this issue for a while. This is not brand new. You didn't raise your hand out of, oh, I've got an idea. I should research. No, this has been, right? Okay. You're doing research right now on this problem?
Not formal.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah. So this argument's been going on. What have you been doing with her? You're not good enough, voice.
I don't know, just trying to be, I don't know, this amazing person.
Oh, okay.
I guess.
Like if you're good enough, that maybe that voice will stop? Maybe she'll go away?
Right, so I'm just,
When you want her to go away, I'll tell you a sure way for her to go away. Forget about this freaking research crap. I said I wouldn't do it. I'm up to 5. Because if you do that, she'll be like this. See that? There's no barrier. There's no problem. You're just not doing anything.
yeah, and that's the problem. If I'm not doing anything.
Exactly. Have you done this? You've actually done this, haven't you? I'll move the dots over there, and I'll watch television. I'll move the dot, or maybe the Game of Thrones is, or whatever. All right. How about this voice? Come on over. Do you remember who you were? You're going to need
Abandonment?
your abandonment. Ouch. So the attachment piece. Do you need some more help in the coaching, or you're ready to go? If you even think about stepping forward into this research on attachment, on a trauma, on abuse, this voice is going to come up. The abandonment voice. This one. Could
You're on your own there, and I think that it's not a very good investment because you're on your own, and it's not going to work, and nobody's really going to care anyway about what you have to say because this is all your stuff. It's not actually something interesting.
It's about right, too.
That pretty close?
Yeah.
What do you want to do with that voice?
Fuck you.
Another F you? Another F you? How's that work?
It hasn't been working
Hasn't been working very well. And in fact, she probably argues back, yeah? She ups your ante. She knows your weak points. She can
That's the best you've got. Fuck you. It figures. About as boring as whatever you think you have to say to contribute in research. I mean, go ahead and try, but you're on your own.
Cool.
Doesn't sound too interesting.
Cool. All right, now let's see if we can do this in a different way, because we know what's going to be happening if we move them over there. You're going to be standing here making deals with these folks to be quiet as long as you don't get to have the life that you came to have. As long as you don't do what's there that's of importance to you. Simple cost, tiny little cost. Just your life, that's all. We'll just sell it. Here, take my life as long as you're quiet. Except they're not quiet. They come in your dreams. They come at 2 in the morning. They come when you sit and you go, why am I not? Yeah? When you remember the trauma, you think of it, they come. When's that going to stop?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. My guess is never. So could we do something different? So here's the deal. Let's imagine you're like driving a vehicle that contains your history. There are thoughts, feelings, memories, bodily sensations. There are things that have happened to you. Okay? If you were to be driving, stay right there, I'm going to go over here. If you were to be driving and going somewhere, you would have a destination and you'd have a direction. And I'm going to represent the direction you might go in. Over here is doing some research about trauma and attachment. Okay? It isn't even just doing the research. That's about something that's even farther down, right? If I do the research, then I'll be able to what?
I don't know. Be happy.
Okay? What else? What are you going to be able to do with the research? What do you want done with it? What's it for?
Help other people.
Help other people. Okay. If you're helping people and you're helping people and you're helping people, do you ever get there and I've finished helping people, now it's time to hurt people? Or is this something that no matter how far you go, there'd be more go to go? You with me on this?
Mm-hmm.
Which is it? Doesn't end, right? So it's kind of more like a direction than it is a destination. But it's true, the pieces you do would be like destination. I did this piece of research, I published it, other people can read it. Yeah, but then there's the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Why? Because your life's about something. If you want it to be. If you want it to be, it's going to have this issue. With your history, if you're going to walk that journey, these voices are going to follow. Just like that. Except maybe louder.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be willing to experience those voices as they are, not as what they say they are, and move in this direction in the interests of what you came here to do? In other words, you said you want to help people? To help people. To learn, to do research, to help people. Including people who've suffered maybe the way you have in some way. Yeah? You're especially able to, because you can bring a heart to it. You know what that's like. Those tears that are showing up right now. But the flip side of those values. With me? So could we have this moment be not about an exercise in front of 260 people, but about a moment in your life where a choice is made about what you're up to with your history as it is, not as what it says it is. So here's what I'd like you to do. First passenger, come around. Come on around. Bring your mic. I'm going to need your mic. You need to head this way because you're going to go that way in just a little bit. But come around. If you were to take this life bus you've got that direction, this voice will show up. But just, is it okay if he touches you? Okay, could you put your hand on her shoulder? Yeah, just like that. And what this is this is in you. This is an expression that this voice is not a foreign voice. It's linked to your history, right? Your history is linked to why you even want to do this. You don't want to silence her. Well, you might want to, but you know what I mean. There's things in here that are useful. So let's listen with a sense of real interest, curiosity, compassion. If I were to do this work that's so important to me that I tear up at the thought of it, I'm going to hear her say, and Hannah, let him have it. Don't let him dodge away. Give him the voice, even though it may seem cruel. Say it out loud for him. Could you, Hannah?
You're not good enough to do this work.
What if you could listen to that? You're not good enough to do this work in a way that actually connects you to why you want to do this work. A history like yours creates voices like that. That's important to know. Is she your enemy? Your history your enemy? Would you be willing to have that voice come with you on this journey? Would you? Could you invite her along?
Come along.
Come on. Okay, come around. And if you could put your hand, can she touch you? Okay, put your hand on here. What this expresses is the same thing. This reaction is in you. It's not foreign to you. You even know the history. And isn't it connected to why you want to do this? Okay. But there's other voices come around. Let's listen to this one. The abandonment voice.
You know how your parents like didn't even really take care of you? Well, that's because they just forgot about you, because you're not really worth anything, and I don't blame them for forgetting about you. And there's not much that you could possibly have to say that would contribute at all. So you should just stay home and stop.
She did a pretty good job, but she is pretty good. Could we flip it from the fuck you to one of, this voice softens you in the sense that inside the pain of this is the pain of the people that you want to serve. Isn't it true? This is the picture of some of that pain. Of not feeling connected and supported and attached and cared for. Yeah? Is that true? Am I making up something up? Is that your enemy, to know that it hurts this much? Is that voice really harmful to you? Or is it how you are letting it move you from what you care about? Could we invite her along for the ride? Now, don't do it as an exercise. Do it because your gut tells you enough is enough. Does it? Come along. If you could put, in the back, you share your microphone. I'm going to ask you, stay right there. I'm going to ask you to do something as you do this. Here's what I'd like you to picture. Over here is helping people who have a trauma history, have an abuse history, and have attachment issues. You know those people?
I know a few.
You met anybody like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you have. And in the interests of serving them, there's this other thing to do, like doing research about it, actually finding out how this thing works. That's here, but it's part of going there. And if you walk this walk, those voices are going to get loud. They're going to come along. And this is not like, oh, woe is me, they're coming along. No, these voices are the reflection of why you want to do this in the first place. There's a gift they're offering you. The gift of your own pain that flipped over is giving you your own purpose, if you choose it. You with me on this? Here's what I'd like you to do if you're willing, but don't do this as a freaking workshop exercise, okay? What I'd like to do as an actual transformational manifestation of enough is enough is to make a choice. Are you going to walk this walk or not? Now, we are witnessing it. Don't do it for us. It's not for us. In some ways, it's not even for you. Maybe it's more like for what you came here to do and the people that you serve. Would you be willing, out of a place in which there's a distinction between you and that stuff that is in you, experience that stuff as it is, not as what it says it is, and bring your behavior in contact with what brings meaning and purpose to you in your life. And your manifestation of that will be, here's how we will know it. You will one step at a time walk in this direction while they let you have it. Wait and make a choice, a serious choice. This is a choice not just for here, this is a choice for next week. I'm not going to hold you account. I'm not judging you. I'm not saying that. I'm asking you to connect with the power of this moment to change the course of your life if you choose to do it. And these are the tools that you'll need. So if you're willing, in a slow and deliberate way, head this way, and mind, let him freaking have it. Okay? Both of you at once.
That's a nice first
I cannot
step.
believe you're going forward. That's ridiculous. You're malnourished and
Can you do this, Tim?
ruined,
In there.
and you think
Is
that's
this
going to
important?
Mistakes.
You
Lots
can't
of
help
mistakes.
other people.
Is
It's
this
about
what you
you.
wanna
You're
do?
so self-centered.
Super embarrassing.
Is this what you choose to do? Is
It's
this
not
worth
going to
it?
work. You're not worth it.
Are they
Nobody's
worth
going to
it?
notice anything, just like they never did. It's just not going to happen.
Can you do this? Can you make this journey?
I don't think so.
awesome. Are you going to do this journey? What if it's a yes or no? Yeah. Awesome. Could we acknowledge Tim for... Thank you, dude. And thank our mind. This can be done in almost any group, etc. You can make it even for young children. You can make it, you have to be a little different than the way you dialogue about it. But there's nothing in here that a behavior analyst can't do. This is training. It's not psychotherapy. It's orienting people to these transformational processes that liberate human lives. And how do we know that? We know it because when we do it here, we see it. You know, when Tim, where'd Tim go? He can see it. There's a possibility in here, isn't there? There is something different. You don't have to do that other thing. You don't. I want to see the freaking first study you do. Send it to me. So if we can figure out a way to bring it in to our lives in such a way that people can live the kind of lives that make a difference in the way they want to make a difference, not because we're trying to make them be something, we're trying to liberate people. Yeah? That's worth our attention as behavior analysts, as a community that long ago even said you can go from rats to freaking wolves. There's no reason that we should let go of that dream. Let's figure out a way. I think we're at a break time. Thank again, Tim, and that was awesome. Thank you.